And welcome to episode 37 of the Throwback Guitar Lounge podcast.
Episode 37,
right?
You've got the subject of today's podcast there, Matthew.
The subject is
The guitar argument.
the guitar argument section.
Yeah, it is. You want me to say it?
You say it. You've done more research on it.
Foolproof PAFs. Are PAFs such a great design? The original Seth Lever design that it's almost impossible to screw it up. We're going to argue over whether or not that's true and what the implications are with either side of that.
Was Seth Lever the Leo Fender of the guitar pickup? Got it right the first time?
I kind of think there's a very good argument for that.
But that wasn't his first design, I guess you could say.
No, but I mean, that design, though.
Still being
At least the design, the iteration that ended up in the guitars, still the most desirable today for a humbucker. So that will be the guitar argument topic of this podcast coming up. Okay, so Matthew, we're going to go right to the throwback mailbox.
You have some interesting mail this week.
We've got some mail. These are viewer comments. Remind us what our last podcast was. Episode 36. How did it start?
Well, it started with we needed a little energy for the show.
Yes.
So Todd's wife, Bonnie, was nice enough to make us some cinnamon rolls. Cinnamon rolls. And those were on-demand cinnamon rolls, weren't they? Because
That's right. We spoke cinnamon rolls appeared.
So we had to say thank you by
eating them on the air. How better to show your appreciation than to do that.
And,
okay, but
I had some nice hot coffee, so they were
it was a great combo.
Exactly.
And the viewers got to enjoy it along with us, or so we thought. So anyway, Matthew, read some of the comments from last week's podcast.
Well, we'll go right into the cinnamon roll comment. So this person...
Let's start on a positive note.
Okay. Well, this is positive too, I think.
All right.
They just don't know it's positive.
Okay.
Okay. The first comment was, these are all anonymous. We don't have names to attach to these, but you know who you are. Great podcast. Interesting details. The riffs are cool.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Now, is that the Rorschach riffs or is that your riffs?
That's a good question. Let's call it both. Maybe it was yours.
The second comment, I like your new segment, Pickups of the Week.
By the way, we're going to do another Pickups of the Week this week. Right after the mailbox here.
Feature a new pickup.
Yeah.
It's a great way to get a taste for your awesome products, for the awesome products you offer. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes. Okay. And there were more comments.
Now it gets a little harder, but we can take it. Now,
I do respect the time and effort that went into this post. This comment. So let's hear it.
Okay. It's hard for a first-time viewer when the first 6 minutes are about somebody's wife's making cinnamon rolls and us watching you eat them. So since that's as far as I'm going to get before you lost me, I'll answer your question for you. No, NAMM is not worth it unless you go on vacation and then write the whole thing off as a business expense. If you're taking a vacation to pay less taxes, great.
Apparently, we're going to have a great time there doing something else other than NAMM.
Otherwise, it'll be on a YouTube next week anyway. Well,
okay.
You know what I think when I see that?
What?
I think we know who's going to get audited soon. Because he's suggesting.
He thinks
that's
his modus operandi for how to dodge taxes.
Like you go on a business trip on vacation, but you write it off as a business trip.
We know how he's doing it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Was there more comments?
A couple more. And then another viewer agreed with our previous one. They said, "Yeah, I had to skip until the eating was done. It was unbearable to listen to the lip smacking."
Yes. I think we have violated the sensibilities of some.
And then our last viewer was short and sweet. It was, "This is unwatchable." But they watched it, so
that's right. So I guess we'll hear from them if they watched our commenting on his unwatchable statement.
Yes. Yeah. Well.
But they got that far.
You made the news, I guess, in one way.
Okay. All right. Well, I guess we'll have to. I mean, how else are we supposed to eat a lip-smackingly good, delicious treat like a cinnamon roll bun, sticky bun? Anyway, that's done, though. We don't have any tasty treats of the, except for guitars.
Only guitar confectionery today.
So we're going to go to the next segment, which is the pickups of the week. This week, the pickups are the COS 301, Throwback COS 301 set. We sell this set in two variations. These are a specific copy of a specific guitar. This is a Paul Kossoff once owned this guitar, and it has some quirks to it that the current owner wanted us to duplicate with I guess it's a signature set for his guitar. So I will get that guitar right now, Matthew.
But if people, maybe there's a few people out there who don't know who Paul Kossoff was. Unfortunately,
guitar player for Free.
Right.
What's the biggest hit? All Right Now.
All Right Now would be there.
Well-known Les Paul player. He's associated with that guitar, I think, pretty exclusively, wouldn't you say? Although I think he did play a Strat.
He did play a Strat. On his solo record, he's holding the Strat.
Yes, and he used this guitar apparently, well, not this guitar, but the guitar that the pickups are kind of derived from. That guitar, he was owned by him while in Free, and then had ownership by the guy in Roxy Music.
Ray Manzanera, he actually responded to an email when we were trying to do some research on that.
Yeah.
And he said, I don't think he owned it, but I think he borrowed it for a U.S. tour.
He used it.
Yeah.
And then it was then back in the ownership of Paul Kossoff later for his Backstreet Crawler solo album. Anyway, so I have these installed in a guitar, Les Paul, and I will talk about them, and we will play the pickups of the week, which is the COS 301 pickups. Let me get those right now. Here, hold on, I think. Oh, hold on.
Get a drum roll.
Yeah, where'd that drum roll? There it is.
There it is.
Okay, there it is. It's a Les Paul. Big surprise. Okay, let me get a picture of this.
Will it be me first?
I got it right this week. Okay, so the guitar here, this is a Guitar Center 60 reissue, Les Paul historic reissue, that with the Sam Lee spec version of the COS 301 pickups. Bridge is 7.6K, neck is 8.6. So this is not terribly atypical for a vintage guitar, but this would not be in most circumstances considered your ideal combination of resistance in terms of bridge and neck position. Would be more typical to flip this, have the hotter resistance in the bridge, but this is lower resistance in the neck. But this is the way the original guitar we copied this from is the Sam Lee spec in the. We sell two versions of this. The guitar in its current state, the bridge pickup is repaired, and we can tell that. And from what I know, and I have lots of specifics about this on the Throwback website, but for what I'm able to kind of determine. I believe that the original pickup was repaired by Sam Lee, the infamous Sam Lee. And I've got the specifics about why that is on the Throwback website. People can feel free to, agree or disagree with that. But there's some very specific features the repair exhibits that involve the use of a different wire and also a kind of mix-up in terms of how the pickup is wired internally. In fact, both of these had been monkeyed with a little bit. And these are all indicators of a possible repair by Sam Lee. given his history of repairing improperly, but in a very interesting way that has made the guitar legendary, the Peter Green Greenie Burst neck pickup. And anyway, the repair on this shows some of the hallmarks that are rumored to be present in the Greenie Burst neck pickup repair. Among these are a coil that is rewound with formvar wire, which is not correct for a PAF pickup. But that is the repair that is on this Kossoff guitar that we duplicated for the post-repair spec set of the Koss 301 pickups. And in terms of our premise of this guitar argument that PAFs are foolproof, this is sort of maybe an argument for that being true. This is repaired with the wrong wire. Mm-hmm. The one coil is hand wound.
Excuse me. It came out of nowhere. I'm sorry.
One coil's hand wound, the other's machine wound. Yet it still sounds great. Okay,
that's an interesting little tidbit, isn't it?
And not only does it sound great, but the other pickup, famous Les Paul pickup repaired by Sam Lee, that sounds great, is the neck pickup of the Peter Green Burst. Right. So this is outside of normal spec, but the design of the entire PAF humbucker, as realized by Seth Lover, is such a robust design that even with those variations, they still sound great. Another interesting fact of this guitar is when I kind of reworked this guitar, I changed the knobs. I also put our M69 rings in here. These are our bone M69 color bone rings, but it did not quite match the pickguard, Gibson pickguard of this year. And so I soaked them in coffee.
The rings
to match the pickguard more closely, and it worked pretty well.
How long did you soak it? Soak them?
I think maybe 2 or 3 hours.
Okay.
And the interesting thing about butyrate in particular is it's very, which our rings are, we have them made with our own mold, steel mold. The plastic, butyrate plastic, is particularly good at accepting dyes. So that is a just kind of interesting side note on this. And we will play the guitar. So let's set that up, Matthew, and I will.
Now, was it a particular type of coffee?
I think it was. I think it was either Donut Shop, regular Donut Shop coffee, or it was Paul Newman's dark roast in a K-cup.
In a K-cup.
I'm not a coffee drinker, but the coffee drinkers around here, those were the ones that were around,
right? Generally
around. So if someone wants to duplicate that formula, I can't tell you it's been long enough now. I can't tell you with certainty which coffee I used, but you
just stuck them right in the cup and just let it.
I made the cup, dropped them in. It worked. Okay. Now, do that at your own risk. I mean, I'm not saying you should do this, but it can be done.
Right.
Okay, so Matthew, we'll get your bass, and we will be right back, and we'll play a little bit of the Koss 301 pickups here, the post-repair spec. Okay, we're back, and Matthew, you're going to play that wonderful 1963 Epiphone Newport Deluxe bass. Ooh. And you commented that has, this is a very small window where they have these two on the side, tuner arrangement, and then it goes to this batwing setup.
The more typical batwing.
4 on the side, yeah. Okay, we'll play a little bit here clean and then dirty. Okay. All right, Matthew, let me, should we talk a little bit about, I'm going to talk a little bit about the kind of what you hear with this that's a little different than what people typically would get or expect from a Les Paul. Because of,
just turn my bass down just in case.
Okay.
It's in the mix there.
All right.
There you go.
You're silent now. But the lower resistance in the bridge pickup does make the neck pickup sort of proportionally woollier than it would be with the resistance matched more closely. It's people often think of resistance in terms of output, but it has almost more to do with EQ than it does with output. So you don't actually get the impression that this bridge pickup is weak, but you do get you do in EQ terms notice that the neck pickup is a little darker. The bridge pickup's a bit snarlier. So you're getting more treble bite out of the low end too of the bridge pickup than relative to the neck pickup because of this disparity in resistance between the two. Again, 8.6K bridge, or sorry, neck, 7.6K bridge. If that were flipped, you would get a little bit more balance on the low end, but you wouldn't really perceive that. I don't think the bridge pickup is being particularly hotter. And the other part of this bridge pickup is, since kind of one of the oddities of the repaired coil being wound with formvar wire, it makes it even a bit more snarly. And there's some pro players that have played the original guitar that the current owner has, and they have commented that the bridge pickup is very powerful. But it's a low resistance pickup. So I think part of what people interpret as power from a pickup, particularly a bridge pickup, is mid-range and treble. And this has quite a bit of that. Magnets for these pickups are Long Island Co. 2, the Arnold Long Island Co. 2 that we have special ordered. And this is also kind of the first steelhead pickup that we offered. We ordered steelhead bobbin mounting screws specifically for this set because the original pickups that we were duplicating here had steel bobbin mounting screws. And interestingly, so does the Peter Greeny burst pickups. And the effect of that is, we have a video about this, but the steel bobbin mounting screws, I think actually act as a little teeny tiny pole piece, and it does make the pickup sound a little bit snarly in comparison to brass. These are the magnetic steel bobbin mounting screws. We also have stainless steel, which is just ever so slightly magnetic, that we had made also, which is what we use in the 57 steelhead.
Right.
But again, us kind of obsessing over these little details, we had both of those variations made of pole screws, or no, steel bobbin mounting screws.
Now, what does that sound like in the cost? The cost. How do we call
the
it?
pre-repair set?
No, this is the post repair.
This is the post repair. Yes.
How does this one sound? The post repair sound in the middle position? That's what I wanted to ask.
It's going to be a little less. This bridge pickup is a little brighter and more snarly than the pre-repair. So I think this is a little bit more pronounced in the middle position because of that. This being a little bit more snarly.
Did you play it in the middle position just now?
I did, yes.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, but the middle position thing, though, it seems to be more accentuated when the resistance is closer neck and bridge. So let me just play real quick here. Oh, that's you. That's me. Let's play the middle. It's not really chimey, super chimey. Mm-hmm. Like it'd be chimier if the resistance was closer, bridge and neck pickup resistance. I think part of that may be some of that treble chime is being neutralized by this darker neck pickup. In fact, I tell people when they're interested in this set that they sound very good, but just be aware that the neck pickup is darker relative to the bridge than what we would typically design in a set. But this is a copy of a very specific set and a very well-known guitar. So it was an exercise in copying that, and we made test sets, sent them to the current owner of this guitar, and he proved all of it and agreed that these were right on with that Paul Kossa burst that he owns. So, okay, Matthew, let's go on to the next segment, which is a guitar argument. Let's put this stuff away, and we will be right back. Okay, we're back with the guitar argument. This guitar argument, Matthew, is, we've got our notes here. Are PAFs foolproof? You're going to assert, Matthew, that PAF pickups, they're repros. When we say, let's narrow this down to PAF pickup repros.
Right.
They're foolproof. And I'm going to argue that no, they're not. You got a lot of people out there saying they're making a PAF repro. Hundreds. I think at last count, there's well over 200.
You said that, yeah.
Little guys, big and small people, outfits making them. And my argument is that at least for the purposes of this guitar argument, is that no, that's not the case, that they're foolproof.
Well, don't give all your lightning away right now.
Okay. All right, Matthew, you're going to start this guitar argument. Where's my timer here? 5 minutes of a heated battle, verbal something. Fireworks, jousting, sure. Yes, go now.
Okay, opening statement. PAF humbucker is one of the most robust and forgiving designs made in the history of electric instruments. You get the basics right, and you can't go wrong.
That's just as simple as that.
A simple little formula. And the proof is, as you said, hundreds of people are doing it right now.
And
so you need you have dual coils.
Okay. So you
output.
by sheer volume, you believe this is the proof that they're easily done. Okay. So my side of this argument is that there's lots of PAF repros out there. I'll put that in quotation marks. But I will describe these as PAF-shaped objects. That they're fine, but to set yourself apart and be truly great, a truly great repro, there are details that are impossible to fake and that require obsessive attention. That just can't be happening with something that's foolproof.
Well, even by your own admission, with Mr. Sam Lee and creating the Kossoff pickup.
We're playing roles here. I'm not going. Don't try to get me on your side with this. I may in the cool down. We may be much closer than you think.
There are lots of happy accidents, and you don't have to be perfect at doing it, but you get in that ballpark, and the proof is in the pudding, because there are plenty of people who don't play super expensive pickups.
So there was a cookie cutter made by Seth Lover, and that cookie cutter made parts, had a recipe with it for the at the end you get a cookie, PAF cookie, PAF type cookie.
Well, you can even
this-
have that the cookie recipe can be messed up a little bit, obviously, because you don't have to have totally matched coils.
Yeah, as long as you don't do something stupid like substitute salt for sugar, you're going to have something that's sweet and delicious. That's your assertion. Okay.
You're in the ballpark. You're going to be okay.
So that doesn't hold up in the sense that we're talking about something when we say PAF about a vintage PAF. We're talking about the most collectible, most expensive collectible guitar accessory on the planet, associated with vintage guitars that are now museum prices, popular music songs that everybody who is a guitar enthusiast knows and strives to achieve that tone. That tone came from a very specific era and a very specific set of parts and techniques. These parts and techniques come down to chemistry, machines, choices of wines, magnet chemistry, dimensions. Something in the ballpark is not going to refine or reproduce the refined nuances of the vintage article. The vintage article is the PAF. The PAF Repro is not a cookie cutter item. It is something that is at its very core, takes all of those details of a vintage PAF and reproduces them with an ear on the best tones associated with those reproductions. And that can't be done without hyper attention. And you can't make something foolproof and hyper attention to detail just don't exist in the same universe as far as I'm concerned.
I like to think of it as more magic than and mystery than recipe. That there's a certain.
I see that once upon a time
you created something.
The PAF formula was anointed by the tonal gods, and as long as you.
Well, I think that's the beauty of it. I think that you can have a very simple, make something with a sewing machine
or a drill
to wind. You can come up with something that some people will swear by and think it's absolutely magic.
Well, that would be something different than a PAF then.
Well, let's say it's within the PAF specs, a moderate. I
think it's very convenient, though. People have decided that. Oh, we're over, but I'll just finish my thought there. It's very convenient that the PAF has a lore.
Yeah, absolutely.
And what better way to promote your pickup than to piggyback on the lore? But the lore is there for a reason. Okay. All right, let's go to the cool down. All right, so I actually am closer to you, Matthew, than you, with my real thoughts than the guitar argument would show. I believe, I actually think that one reason there are so many PAF repros out there, makers big and small, is because it's really hard to screw it up. So the consequences, if you're anything from, let's say you're making $35, you're some, I don't know, sweatshop somewhere overseas, and you're making a pickup that's like $35. Or if you're making, I've seen repros out there for $1,700.
17.
Yeah. And, but what do they have in common? I think if they get kind of I think the design is so good that the component pieces, if you get those in the ballpark of where they're supposed to be, and if you get the winding specs as far as choices, like pick the right size wire, pick the right number of turns,
right,
pick the right kind of magnet. If you just follow those basic rules that are kind of set out and spelled out for you in something like a Stuart McDonald pickup kit, humbucker pickup kit, at the end of the day, assuming you get all the wire on the bobbin and you make all the connections properly, you're going to have something that sounds pretty good. And that's a testament to how good the original design is. Mm-hmm. So my feeling is that that's one reason you have so many people out there making them and continuing to, is because there are happy customers because the design is so good that at the end of the day, just about anybody can produce a pickup that sounds pretty good with that formula. But
here comes the but.
Okay. Well, what are your thoughts about that?
Well, I think that's what I agree with you. I think there is the gap between, what you know and what you don't know, sort of thing. Is like when I first started going to Elderly Instruments back in the mid '90s, and you would start listening. I'll talk about acoustic guitars. You look at it, say you're an okay above, well above a beginner guitar, but you would listen to it and go, oh, that's a nice guitar. And then and Elderly's kind of a great shop because they don't discriminate. They'll let you pick up anything you want, and you can go over and pick up a much more expensive Martin or a much more, handmade Santa Cruz. All these guitars are handmade, but your ear quickly gets attuned to, what the differences are.
There's tonal nuances between them, and that are undeniable if you're experienced enough with playing them to hear it.
Yeah, your ear becomes educated over time. It's absolutely true if you're exposed to this stuff. So
then the question is it a fair statement to call all of these PAF repros? And I'm not the one that determines that, but for us, there is a combination of specs that really come down to fine details. As far as, and I mentioned it's chemistry of steel, it's chemistry of magnets, it's using the right kind of plastic, it's having parts of the correct dimension, it's having the correct machines so that you can duplicate the wire pitch of the vintage pickups.
Right.
It's having the knowledge that comes from repairing them over time and seeing what the variations are if you're going to offer a full product line of these.
And it's what you try to do here. We're taking what we know historically existed and then recreating that.
Yes.
So you're getting vintage specs with these.
Yeah.
We're not making these specs up.
Yeah, but even with all of that, the core design is so good that, and again, the guitar we just played, the COS 301 set that we offer that has this kind of weird repair, it still sounds quite good. Mm-hmm. Although that is strictly not a PAF, the repaired one, because it varies in the spec of how the bobbin is wound that was repaired in both wire and not being machine wound, which all PAFs were machine wound. So, but it is one of those cool things that gives a builder the opportunity to kind of come up with their own take on it. Mm-hmm. But if you're strictly adhering to we're going to make a reproduction of a vintage PAF, the aperture as to what really fits within that becomes very much smaller, and that's where those fine details are really what do separate a good pickup from a great PAF repro, and that's kind of what gets lost in the mix as far as is what people, I think, have as far as an expectation from the pickup and what the reality is as far as what they're going to get. There's nuances in the pickup response as far as EQ and dynamics that are really, really dependent upon that smaller window of specs that you have to focus on in order to kind of make the claim of making an accurate repro. And again, all of the tones that people associate with this are with the vintage originals. And so having a very robust design that allows for a lot of variation beyond what the vintage originals had in terms of material specs and winding specs and even dimensional specs is great in terms of making something that sounds great. Well, or make something that sounds good that's kind of close to it, may look like a PAF, but the actual kind of fine details that are part of the originals make the number of people that can say they have a repro, I think, much smaller than the broader public might think. But I do think it's kind of a foolproof design, which is, kind of cool. So I know people that do it as a hobby, and they can. I think part of the nice part of having the pickup design be foolproof in the sense that you can kind of with some basic skills make something that sounds pretty good. It gives people the opportunity to do that, and also there's something about making a pickup like that for yourself, sort of magical the first time you do it, but it's also kind of a way of having ownership over your tone. I would assume that's Eddie Van Halen was experimenting with rewinding his pickups. I think all of that, there's two parts of that. He wanted the tone he wanted, but a part of it was ownership. And the fact that you can get kits and you can experiment with this on your own for yourself, it is very satisfying to kind of have ownership of that part of it, especially since the pickup is such a key part of the final electric guitar tone. Is there more you want to add to that, Matthew? I've talked a lot.
You spiked my interest when you said Eddie Van Halen. So did his Frankenstein guitar have his own pickup in it, or was that a PAF? I thought
the rumor is that it's a PAF that he rewound and then wax potted.
Right.
That came out of, I believe, an ES335. And that's the lore.
And did he put extra winds on it? Did he?
I don't know. I've heard it. I'm not an expert on that one. I know that people, when they request something for that, I want a sort of a Frankie Strat bridge pickup. They usually request a PAF with an Alnico 2 magnet. I think that probably makes sense. I don't know if I'm correct. I think it was maybe a 58 ES335 he took this out of. I'm not sure. Again, don't quote me on that, but I think that's what I've heard, which would make sense with an Alnico 2 magnet for that.
Well, I wonder, if you hear interviews with Wolfgang Van Halen, he seems he's very educated about the equipment that his dad had. Mm-hmm. So I wonder what if he asked or what his father told him about that guitar or that pickup.
Yeah, I've seen interviews with Eddie Van Halen where he actually talked about that his goal was he wanted the sound he wanted. This was the search for the sound he wanted.
Right.
But and the waxing thing is an idea that I guess he just came up with. It's not the it's not. I don't think it's the first example of someone wax potting a pickup. He figured out that would suppress the feedback.
The feedback.
Yeah. Again, I'm not. This is not something I'm an expert on. I just know that there's something around 8K, and Alnico 2 PAF is what people ask for. So yeah, I really have no idea what the specs are beyond kind of like what people have kind of claimed that have researched it. But have we exhausted the?
I think we have.
Okay, so
well, that's a good jumping off point for our Rorschach riffs.
Because you're going to play Van Halen licks.
No Van Halen, but it's going to be all
No tapping?
no tapping. I'm not good at that, but it's going to be all 80s power chord pop songs.
Uh-oh.
So there's your hint. That's the only hint you're going to
Do you have a guitar preference here? We have many to choose from, Matthew.
Well, I was practicing a little bit earlier with the Heritage.
The fine Heritage. Let's do that. We love these
I'm
guitars.
kind of used to that neck.
I am very pleased with the custom core guitars. We're going to use these guitar. We've got a couple same weight that we're going to use for magnet comparison with throwback pickups. I haven't switched the pickups out on this guitar yet, but I have let me go get it. But we'll be right back. We'll be right back with the Matthew's Rorschach riffs. Hold on. Okay, Matthew, we're back for Rorschach riffage. And you've got the guitar we've got here is a Heritage H150 custom core. Let the fine public see the fine guitar.
Can they see that? Is that good?
Yes. And so in sort of end of year frenzy, I purchased this and another matching one, a little different finish, but same weights that we're going to use for magnet comparisons. These my observations too, comparing these to some historic reissues of same era, is that these pickups sound better than the custom buggers.
And these are the Heritage.
I forget what they call them. They're specific to the custom core.
Are they called Parson Street?
I think are they called 225 something?
Yeah.
And
that's a play on the address.
Yeah, and I saw their setup, and these do use real plain enamel wire, which I don't believe the Gibson custom buckers do. Looking at them, they're equivalent in terms of covers look equivalent to me. So now again, I think both this and the Gibson equivalent, you're not getting like a problematic pickup. I will be changing these obviously, but side by side, I prefer these over the custom buckers for sure. And another interesting thing, I haven't taken the pickups out of this yet, but I believe I'm going to double check this when I have the pickups out, but I believe that the pots are reading above 500K, which is 50s era correct. And I don't believe the Gibson ones have done that yet. Now, if you get a wiring harness from us, this is one of the things we do. We have Lux Bumblebee capacitors, but we have pots that are spec'd so the tolerance falls 500K or above, which is how vintage era 50s and 60s pots are. And it adds a subtle difference in treble response for the better generally. And I think these are spec'd like that. I'll confirm that when I have everything out, but that's a spec that they do not mention. I just stumbled across it out of curiosity, when I was looking to see what capacitors were in the control cavity there, which are orange drops. So anyway, all right, Matthew, you are going to, I'll say another great thing about this guitar. The finish is super thin. And if you compare the finish to this to a historic reissue, the current production, this is obviously thinner and I think, just better applied. Now again, I really like my historic reissues, so not in fact, I'm going to buy some more, and I'll buy more of these too, because my goal is to get a guitar for all of the variations of what we make, so I don't have to keep swapping guitars to test this stuff or to do demos.
Swapping pickups.
Swapping pickups out of the same guitar. So, but the Gibson one, it's thicker. I'm just quite sure of it. Kind of has it's very good, but if you kind of compare this directly against like the back of it, you can see that the finish on this is way more leveled. And the Gibson one is kind of like, I hate to say it seems kind of gloppy in comparison. It's kind of orange peely, it's ever so slightly, not bad. You can really tell it on the neck. This neck feels much smoother. Gibson one's ever so slightly sticky. I have no problem with either of them, but the Heritage, these really are an improvement over the kind of the older ones that I've got, and I really like the older ones. But if you're kind of looking at both, very comparable between a historic reissue and the custom core, in my opinion. Okay, Matthew, I've talked enough. You are going to do some Rorschach riffing.
This is my 80s power chord edition of the Rorschach riffs.
Okay, make sure that the viewers can see your hands, because maybe the power chords will give away will help determine the powerful riffs. Let me get my notes here, thing to write on. Whenever you're ready, riffs, rapid succession.
No, I need some good old distortion on this. We got some of
Tell me if you want more. I can dial it up.
Yeah, give me a little more.
Okay.
I'll need it for some of this stuff.
Okay, try it again.
Okay, I think it's good.
You're set to go?
I'm set to go. Okay, let's see if I can get this down.
Okay, hold on here. Let's see. 4 riffs, rapid succession, famous, well known to all
I believe
who are listening.
They're.
Let's go.
Yeah. Okay, hang on.
Now. Okay. Oh my gosh, that's out of tune, man. Did you tune this first?
It's me. Well, you played it earlier.
Oh, I didn't tune it. I didn't know you were going to use that one. I tuned the Kosseff one.
Oh, you didn't play this one?
No.
It's me playing it. It's not. I think it's in tune.
Okay. Okay.
You want to do it again?
Oh, okay. Wait. Okay. Well, now the last one I know because you're Canadian.
A.
You had to throw one in there, I think. Okay, maybe that's not the only one though. Okay, you go again. You know what? This is actually harder than I would think. I'm identifying them, but I'm having a hard time
picking them out exactly.
No, okay. So you've gone through the 4.
I've gone through the 4.
Okay, I think I recognize all of them, but it's not as easy as if it were a riff, like a single note riff. I think.
Okay, do it again.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Get out of my order. Hit it. Okay. I threw it a little bit more into that one.
Okay.
In case you didn't have that.
Okay, I know it now.
That's a little rough.
Okay, I saw them in concert.
Oh, really? That's 4.
Okay. Okay. I know them all.
Okay.
Okay. You want to do it one more time for the. That's one.
Oh, sorry. I did it again.
All right. Okay.
That sounded rough. Oof.
Hey, I think that is out of tune. Oh my gosh.
That is out of tune. Okay. That doesn't do it justice, but anyway, try that. You really need you need more distortion for that though.
You got to hit the last note there, the low note. Dun, 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 dun.
I can't remember how to do that though.
Okay. All right. Everybody's had their chance. I think, thank goodness these were 80s because I have the auditory memory ingrained in my
MTV
brain.
You've seen them all?
Okay, so number one is Pat Benatar.
Mm-hmm.
Hit Me With Your Best Shot.
Correct.
Number two is Robert Palmer, Addicted to Love.
Correct.
Number three is the first rock concert I paid for the ticket.
Really? What did you pay?
I don't remember. You would think I'd remember that, but it was A Heat of the Moment by Asia
Correct.
with, why am I drawing a blank on this famous guitar player's name?
The guy from Yes?
From Yes.
Starts with an S.
So yeah, is it Steve?
Steve Howe.
Steve Howe. Yeah. He did like a long sort of solo with everybody else off stage.
Really?
Very impressive. And
Did he have that big hollow body thing of his? Or was he playing something else?
I think he was playing he had a Telecaster with a humbucker in the neck. He was playing a blonde Telecaster with a humbucker in the neck, because my recollection.
And where was that?
That was at what, I'm drawing a blank on what it was called. It's torn down now.
Here in town? Or?
Yeah, it's torn down to make way for the DeVos place thing. I'll remember.
Okay.
And the last one is Turn Me Loose by Loverboy.
Correct.
One of my favorite Loverboy songs, too. Turn Me Loose.
That's a good
Canadian
song.
band.
Good Canadian band. Paul Dean on guitar there.
Yeah.
They're still going, you know.
Yeah. Actually, the lead singer still sounds great. But he doesn't look as trim as he used to.
No, Mike Reno, you're thinking of. Yeah. Yeah, he does sound good.
He still sounds really good, but something happened. It's not funny. I mean, but he's still having a great time, obviously. And he sounded really good, the clip I saw.
Yeah.
What is the name of that? I saw. What is the name of that hall? I saw is something hall, isn't it? Or no?
Is it Welsh Auditorium?
Welsh Auditorium. That's
Okay.
it. Yeah, I saw Asia there. I saw Stevie Ray Vaughan there. Actually, now that I'm thinking of it, I think last show I mentioned that I saw the Jets and. Maybe I saw who's the guy that did the song?
You said Howard Jones.
Howard Jones.
I think it was there.
No, maybe it wasn't there. No, the Howard Jones was at the Orbit Room. I saw Duran Duran and is it Erasure opened up for them?
Possibly, sure.
Yeah, I saw them in Welsh Auditorium also.
The great thing about the internet, you can look it up.
This is a Duran Duran after their tour, after they were huge.
After they were kind of coming down a bit.
Yeah, with who replaced one of the Taylors on who's the guitar player that was in he was with Robert Palmer in the Power Station.
Andy Taylor.
Andy Taylor. Yeah, the replacement for Andy Taylor was the guitar player. For that, and he used to play for Frank Zappa, and what was the band he played in? What was that band? I forgot now.
Are you thinking? Oh, I think I know who you're talking about.
Do you hear me? Do you care? I forgot the name of the group now, but the drummer for that was also, I think, their drummer.
The guitar player was an American, though, right? He was a Californian.
I don't know if they were. I don't know if he was Californian or not. I thought that band was from the East Coast, but shoot, I'm drawing a blank on that. Okay, Matthew, you have musical musings. Are you going to just hold the guitar there, or should I? Here, let me hold.
You hold it. You take it. I don't want to drop it or anything crazy.
All right, I'll just.
Okay, so I thought I would do just a quick musical music, and I thought I would do because as we're preparing this week to go to Anaheim for the 2026 NAMM show.
No, okay. Well, let's see here. Actually, we will be heading back when this airs. Boy, there's something going on upstairs there.
Well, this is in between our part 1 show of NAMM. Is NAMM worth it?
Oh, I see. Yes, that's right. We'll have a post NAMM show, but yes, this will actually air though on our.
This will air when we're traveling.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah.
So, but I thought I'd just take a minute and go over some thoughts and regale some stories from past NAMM shows.
Oh,
so,
are these things we experienced?
Yeah, I think you were there for most of them. Some of them you may have missed out on because you were talking to somebody else when it happened very quickly. These. So I thought it was people. I would do.
I can think of a couple things. These are like sort of like celebrity encounters.
Yeah, people I met or we met, and then people we almost met. Or so.
Okay.
So the first one I thought of, or that came to mind, was people we did meet, and I think you were there obviously because we were introduced him. We met David Grissom.
Yes. Yep.
Who used to play with.
Jeff McErlane, a friend of ours.
He introduced us.
David Grissom, very nice guy.
And he played with John Cougar Mellencamp, and he played with Joe Ely, and we had a nice little say hello to him. I don't think you experienced this one. I met very briefly at the Collings booth. I was looking over. Someone was doing a demo, and I looked to my left, and Rudy Sarzo.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, actually, I was right there while you were talking to him, but I was talking to the people at Collings. Yeah, go ahead.
So there was a little demo going on. I just turned my head, and Rudy Sarzo was right beside me, and I had just upstairs. They were giving away free copies of Bass Player magazine when they were still publishing it, and he was on the cover. So I just reached into my bag, and I had a Sharpie, and I said, "Would you mind signing this?" And he was very gracious, and he signed. I think he signed more than one copy because I had extra copies of it. And then he just said to me, "Where did you get these?" And I said, "If you go upstairs, there's stacks of them for free." So I think he went upstairs and got some for himself. And I met in one of the hallways upstairs in the second level. I met Tommy Thayer from Kiss.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was just standing there, and he was waiting for somebody. And so I thought, no makeup, just
no.
So my youngest daughter is a Kiss fan, so I went up and I got his autograph for her. Now the next ones are people we almost met. So
okay. So
we'll go back to the earliest one was, and I have to blame you for this one. Fred Armisen in 2017.
Yeah. Yeah, he was eating in the kind of like the hotel breakfast in there, and I thought, like, is that Fred Armisen?
And this was not a fancy hotel.
No, and I thought, it's not a crummy hotel, but it's not like like Embassy Suites or something,
or the Hilton, or
So and I thought I said, but I thought, like, that can't be. His hair's all gray, and but then I told you. And afterwards, I said, I think, was that... Anyway,
I didn't see him at all.
You knew that he had gray hair, and I had no clue.
Yeah.
But that was one.
But I also think it makes sense, too, because I think... I don't think he'd be staying at that hotel now, because now he's gone back and past more recent NAMMs, and he's been a host giving out awards at some of the shows.
This was when he was sort of like starting out with the sort of like drummer persona, musician sort of.
Which he did all those things, but he was getting more recognition for that part of his career. And then in 2020, I got NAMMitis, and I couldn't talk. I got about the second day in.
That's right. You lost your voice.
And then we went to the Ampeg demo, and Daryl Jones, bass player for the Rolling Stones, gave a very nice demo. And he was kind of hanging out. And I felt if I went up to him, I couldn't say anything. I literally could not talk. So I kind of missed out on meeting Daryl Jones. And then last year, we saw him this gentleman briefly in one of the rooms, but we didn't go up and talk to him. It was Skunk Baxter.
Actually, we were talking to Wolf McLeod.
That's right.
Wolf Tone Pickups. Yeah. And just kind of standing in the, I don't know, kind of by kind of a spot in the walkway there. Not in anybody's way, but he walked by, and then he after he walked by, I thought I should have asked him. I should have said something like, "Mr. Baxter, is it true that you're one of the first boutique pickup winders?" Because he used to make his own pickups.
Oh, really?
And then he walked by again, and I didn't have the nerve to stop and ask him that. But I think it would actually be an interesting question to ask him, because he did make his own pickups, and I believe he not only made his own pickups, but he also would like if he got a humbucker like a PAF or something, he would check to see if the coils were balanced for resistance, and he would unwind one until they were perfectly balanced. So it'd actually probably be an interesting question to ask him, because I think he kind of is. You know, he was doing it himself before this was really a thing.
I guess along with Les Paul.
Yeah.
Now, who is the
and again, this goes to the ownership thing. People do really. Yeah. I mean, they think there's kind of a need to, like, if you're really into it, and there's something to owning kind of the whole thing. If you're, I guess maybe some people it wouldn't matter, but some people it does.
Who's the singer songwriter of Down Under?
Oh, yeah.
Is it Colin?
Colin. Yeah, the singer for Men at Work.
Men at Work.
Yeah. I saw him. I talked to him.
I
tried to be funny.
Well, tell people what you said. And what's his name? I can't remember his last name.
Why am I drawing a blank on that? He was at the Collins booth, and he was looking at a guitar standing next to me, and I said, "Oh, Men at Work made those."
And then he looked at you.
He said, "What?"
He looked at you and said, "Yeah, what?"
And actually, was real nice. I said, "Oh, Men at Work made those." Oh, anyway, actually later I didn't say anything. He actually emailed me because he bought pickups from us for a guitar.
Oh, really?
And he wanted some advice. So I didn't mention that though. So
I suppose he'd never heard that. Colin Hay, that's right. Colin Hay. Colin Hay. He has. I saw him on a. I think he had a summer tour, and I think he might have been doing. I think it was just a Men at Work, but he was opening up for somebody else, and somewhere I saw a clip of it. I guess on YouTube or something, but they sounded like really, really, really good. Now it was sort of like, I think it was his band.
Yeah.
It wasn't like a Men at Work reunion or anything.
Yeah.
But
well, he's in the Ringo Starr band.
Is he?
Yeah. So he's got access. Knows people that are great musicians. And he is as well. But
he has a very, very good voice, and there's he's got a duet. I found it. I stumbled upon it on Spotify. He does a duet with another a woman artist. I can't remember her name, but it's a duet of Bob Dylan's "Most of the Time," which is not a duet, but they created it into a duet. And his voice is like, it's probably better than it's ever been.
Yeah, we saw what we thought it might have been for a split second U2 walking around.
Really?
Yeah, remember they had like a U2 lookalike band walking around there?
I can't remember that.
Yeah. There's some guy that walks around too that's like looks like a mini Slash.
Oh, lots of those guys. Lots of those.
With the leather top hat.
I love the top hat.
There's another one I'm thinking. I'm drawing a blanket on now. So this was an odd one. We went there one year, and remember the guy that used to work at Guitar Center?
Yes.
In town here? Where was he working? He wasn't working for the Trainer booth or something. He was working for he moved
Marquee,
out of town.
Was it Marquee?
I don't remember. But he had gotten a job with a major manufacturer. Not, he had moved out of Grand Rapids, and he hey guys, we recognize him because he used to work at Guitar Center, Grand Rapids. And he chatted, and he said, "Yeah, I just walked around Wood to it was like the Roland booth or something."
Oh, really?
Or the Marshall. He said, "Yeah." He came up to me. He said, "I don't know how to get to this place," and I walked him to it. It's kind of interesting.
Last time I saw him, he's back in town now. He works at the.
Oh, does he really?
He was at Firehouse Guitars.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know if he's still there, but
that
was like a year or so ago.
Okay. Are you? Is that?
That's all. That's all.
So we'll see if we have,
maybe we'll see some famous people,
or maybe
we'll be the famous people.
Be the famous.
Maybe
people
our public who watched it and been
so
loyal to the show will come out and say hello to us at NAMM.
Could be,
because we'll have these shirts on, so you'll be able to.
That's right.
Identify us.
Yeah, we'll. Paul will be with us too.
Yeah, you can meet Paul.
So we'll have increased our exposure there
by 33%.
Yes. So,
and there's that interesting segment coming up on part 2 on the episode that'll premiere after this. NAMM through the eyes of a non-musician.
Yes, that'll be Paul.
Paul's going to tell us. He's got to keep notes. We'll hear what he thinks.
Okay.
Thanks very much.
Thanks for everybody for watching.